Welcome to the Advertising Forum. This is episode 1 of our new series, Brand Purpose, sponsored by Zephyr. We are so excited to get started on this new episode. Today, we welcome industry veteran and esteemed CMO of the Brand Safety Institute, Mr. Lewis Jones.
Lewis, thanks for being here. We're excited to talk about brand purpose today.
Awesome. I'm excited to be here. And Jeremy and ATG, thank you for having me. I'm ready to jump into it. Let's go.
From where you sit and as a CMO at Brand Safety Institute, how do brands maintain that authenticity, of their value and their purpose while navigating, major social platforms and especially, user-generated content?
Okay. So allow me to step back a little bit and then I'll then come and step forward. It's a definite decision on the part of a brand to want to really be about a particular purpose and find ways to sort of promote that within the context of the walled garden. So first, you've got to make a conscious decision that this is the path that you want to take, right? Because the easier path and the path more traveled is, I've got a brand essence and I just want to sort of get it out there. Brand purpose, right, really talks about you having a real focus toward doing something good or of value to greater society. And it's a super conscious decision, which means that you then need to make super conscious decisions about how you play within the walled garden marketplaces, right? And so each one is different. Each one has a relative weight or gravity in certain areas. And you've got to really sort of tease out what it is that you really want to be about and how to access that within the walled garden environments that exist. So from a practical standpoint, right, typically from an advertising standpoint, you get everything all ready, you hit the go button and things begin to run. And in this world, and particularly the walled garden, you want things to run at scale, right? If you're really going to do brand purpose right, you almost have to take a test and learn perspective, because you can't light up the world and have purpose at the same time, right? You've got to knit that story together. And you've got to see what kinds of audiences and what kinds of environments provide you the right kind of feedback response, and also give you as sort of the brand the feeling that this is the right fit for me.
So that's great insight. I mean, when it comes to highly controlled social platforms, and you talk about the right insight and the right feedback, right, from your initiative and market. What do you think has been the biggest challenge as it relates to that and keeping your brand purpose and aligning with the reputation that you're looking for?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is having the patience to do it right. And so that kind of flips back to this sort of test and learn perspective, right? Because the idea is, and particularly within sort of the greater lens of what you're doing in marketing, right? You get a budget. That budget is sort of created to achieve some level of communication within the overall marketplace, whether that's reach or consistency. I mean, a couple of different variables that you can look at. But you've got to have it all sort of under control, right? Because your purpose, which again is a next level ideal from sort of who you are as a brand and what you're trying to sort of communicate to consumers, right? You're trying to now wrap that in a more societally acceptable wrapper, right? And you've got to take care about how you do that. And so I think probably the biggest challenge is, again, I think it's coming back to trying to light up too many spaces at one time. Right? You've got to shine the light, the flashlight. It's a flashlight approach. You got to shine it in the different areas that you think could be potentially good for you. And not all of them will be. So you've got to understand you will light up some spaces and you will make some mistakes. That's the nature of the walled garden universes, right? this stuff is coming online so fast, right? That there's not enough time at scale to sort of sense check all that's available to you. In the whole sort of bidding process, right? Who knows at what price you're trying to sort of achieve your purpose, and at what price others are trying to achieve their purpose. And so the mix and match of header bidding and opportunities makes for a frenetic environment. And you've got to take your time and be really meticulous about how you go about trying to light up those spaces in the right way.
Lewis, by lighting up all of those different fires, how do brands actually balance media buying with authenticity on algorithm-driven platforms as in walled gardens?
It's a tough challenge. And I think the thing that I would say is that you've got to have some folks that are really dedicated to sort of understanding what is happening in as much real time as you possibly can. Again, the content is going up really, really fast. Algorithmically, you need to be in the right spaces because the wrong space will algorithmically get you in trouble really, really fast. And you've got to be very, very conscious of what is happening out there in those spaces and make adjustments as you see them. So in some cases, I need to get out of this particular space, and this space over here looks interesting. The audience is not as large, but hey, you're trying to build a purpose. You're not just trying to advertise the brand. Right. So you've got to understand what those deltas are in between, the goal of advertising and the goal of building brand purpose. It's a very, very specific thing.
So that's a perfect segue into the next question. What actual best practices do you recommend? You've been in this game for a long time. You're a legend in our space. So what best practices do you recommend for making sure that brand safety, reputation, and actual purpose stands out in all of the noise of personalized ads in the walled gardens?
So, like anything, it takes planning and practice, right? And so the first thing that you need to really understand is, right, there's this whole sort of notion of what is brand suitability. And I know that's not really part of this particular conversation, but to the extent that it's related to the purpose that you want to extol upon the consumer universe, you need to understand clearly what is suitable and aligns to your purpose, right? And so whether it's environmental, it's social causes, whatever it is, right? You've got to do sort of the exercise of understanding, or as some agencies or brands call it, do an audit of what fits and what does not fit. And so of what fits, then you go to your buying terms, right? And so your buying terms need to be expressed in terms of what you're trying to achieve. So again, that gets into notions of pricing. And if, brand purpose potentially can give you 20% higher revenue, then maybe you need to consider paying 20% more for the inventory that fits the purpose that you're trying to communicate, right? And then, your homework. We tried this environment. How did it do? Didn't do so great. We're moving on to the next one. Did this, made a mistake. It put us in a bad place. Pull out. Then you've got, your keywords, your tech strategies for sort of understanding how to manage the technology elements that get you closer to where you want to be. And then the last thing is, particularly from a brand safety standpoint, is to make sure that everyone in your corporation is on the same page, right? Because when we get into trouble in the brand safety space, it's around people not all being clear about where the goal line is. And there's confusion about why did this happen? When did this happen? How much did this happen? And again, once you're in that situation, you're automatically fighting against the brand purpose that you're fighting so hard to sort of get out in the marketplace.
There is a problem. You've mentioned using a flashlight, being able to target where you're going, taking a look at the content, being aware of what's happening and how your brand is perceived in market. How do you protect those values of your brand from being also diluted or even misrepresented by, content moderation policies on platforms like Meta and Google?
Yeah. I mean, I think, again, it goes back to something I said earlier in the conversation. You've got to choose who you're going to play with and how you're going to play with them, right? And so not all of the environments are created equal. On a place like Google, right? You've got channels that you can access. You've also got creators, right? Do you want to go more channel? Do you want to go more creator? Right? Sometimes creators can go wrong suddenly. We've seen that happen. And channels algorithmically can all of a sudden pull in stuff that is questionable and not sort of in the space where you are sort of originally sort of made the decision to get on that channel, right? And so something like X is a little bit more free form, right? And so you can't really, that's a snake that's always wriggling, and it's hard to control, right? Meta gives you a lot more choice in terms of
well said.
Types of content and levels of content risk that you might want to participate. And you just got to go through and you got to do your homework. And the thing is, it's not easy. All right. And it takes resource. You got to put people against it, which means that you got to put money against it. So if you're going to go for brand purpose, again, you got to make sure that the prospective benefit of a brand purpose strategy is equally supported, right, from a price premium standpoint, so that you're getting what you want. So you can't pay bottom dollar and achieve purpose at the same time.
Well said, Louis. Louis, thank you. This concludes our first episode of Brand Purpose, our new series by Zephyr. We just want to say thank you for your time. Thank you to our audience for watching, and we appreciate it. And stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Louis.
Thank you for having me.
You were awesome. Thank you.
All right. Take care.